For centuries, humans have been growing alongside our botanical brethren. Our histories have mixed and mingled to bring us modern medical marvels, faded folklore, and everything in between. Of course, in order to understand the plant, we have to start with its roots. I'm M. Grubner Gaddis, and this is Rooted. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Rooted, where this week we're back to covering some of your seasonal planty favorites. Before we jump in, I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you for your continued support, both here on the podcast and with the new stuff we've been trying on social. Building a community has been so rewarding and special, but it was also the scariest part for me when I first started. So I really wanted to take the time to say thank you for being here, whether you're brand new here or you've been around since I was recording episodes under a heap of blankets. Moving back to what you really came for, today we're digging into a holiday staple across the world, holly. Known for its bright red berries and super pointy leaves, I'm willing to bet these beauties are all over your local landscapes, centerpieces, grocery stores, and nurseries right about now. Botanically known as ilex, this genus is part of the Aquifoliaceae family, with members like Japan holly, European holly, which is the one you're probably picturing, and winterberry. Today we're going to specifically focus on European holly, or Ilex aquifolium, but I'm sure we'll talk about some of the other relatives soon enough. In the case of European holly, these guys are actually pretty widespread, thanks to their ability to adapt and being such a tasty snack for animals that tend to migrate. They are fairly slow growing, but can eventually reach up to 50 feet, 10 meters, though most of the ones that you likely find for landscaping have been bred to stay around 5-ish feet, like any good hedge shrub should. They are evergreen with glossy but spiny alternating leaves with about 3 to 5 spikes on each half of the leaf, so about 6 to 10 spikes total. They're dicots, meaning that they have both male and female plants, with only females having those iconic red berries, which tend to ripen in the winter and are technically drupes because they contain a few small seeds inside. Before berries, the flowers of holly are honestly kind of sneaky, and since they're just a light green color and aren't very big, it's likely that you don't really see them. But man, do they have a Neville Longbottom moment for winter. Kinda crazy, honestly. Now, as tempting as those berries may look, this is the part where I break your heart and remind you that, for the most part, tiny red berries are nature's red flags for human bellies. And these guys are no exception. Not only are they not particularly tasty, but they're also fairly toxic, leading to nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea if ingested in smaller amounts, and fever and much worse complications if you really go for it. So yeah, no snacking on the holly centerpieces, okay? What they lack in feastability, they more than make up for in fable. For starters, let's take it back to my favorite cultural touchstone, Nordic gods. Hold on tight, because much like Viking boat builders, we're about to get riveting. In Nordic tradition, holly is infamously known as the plant of Thor. Partially because holly is a weirdly good conductor of electricity, and also because, much like Thor, holly is regarded as a sort of protector, trapping evil and other big bads with its spines and twists. Famously, in Celtic folklore, there's also the tale of the Oak King and the Holly King. According to legend, these two fight for dominance over the course of the year, with power flip-flopping at the end of summer and during the winter solstice. The Holly King is described as wearing red, with holly in his scraggly beard, and appearing to hold a holly club while directing a sleigh of 8 stags. Santa? In another tradition from that region, it's said that holly's role in the wild was to provide shelter for the smaller things of the forest, with sprites, fairies, and other fae finding comfort in its branches. So, if you were to take a sprig of holly home with you, you'd also bring those guys with you. And while at first it might kind of seem like a bad thing to be bringing those tricksters in, it turns out this is more of a if you're cold, they're cold situation, so bringing them inside left them with a very generous feeling and mood towards you, and they would help to ward off like seasonal depression and other doomy gloomy nasties. Meanwhile, in ancient Rome, they were celebrating the season a little differently, mostly with human sacrifice and white elephant gifts in honor of Saturn, known as Saturnalia, and celebrated approximately between the 17th through 23rd of December. This was a festival of role reversals and light debauchery. This was all done as a way of honoring Saturn, the god of agriculture, who was believed to have the power to bring back the so-called Golden Age, a time when humans lived in harmony with the gods and Earth, eliminating the need for there to be power struggles, or honestly even work for that matter. During this celebration, gambling was legal, enslaved people and those who owned slaves were seen as mostly equal, and as a general rule, folks were encouraged to embrace living like they were in a utopia for a few days. They even appointed a temporary king, known as the Lord of Misrule, to oversee the festivities. There were feasts, an ongoing exchange of silly little wax trinkets, and a kind of messed up human sacrifice to Saturn, with a ton of winter decorations like holly to kind of harken back to the whole abundance theme. Now when we eventually get to Christianity, not wanting to ruin the magic of not Christmas that their new followers had grown accustomed to, adopted holly by taking it to an absolutely fucking metal place, with the leaves being Jesus' crown of thorns and the berries symbolizing drops of his blood. Well played, Christians. And this is the part of the show where I once again put it out there that someone really needs to make Blood of Adonis happen. I'm begging for a botanical sleep token over here. But outside of symbolism and celebration, holly also has practical applications in everyday life. Or at least it did. The leaves were often used to feed livestock through winter when other forage would have been hard to find for them. Plus, sprigs were used to make leaves and other hanging decor to keep demons away. However, it's important to note that no one ever fully cut down holly plants and instead only took sprigs. And this is because it was seen as really bad luck to cut the whole plant down. Even so-called unholy witches flew around them out of respect. And that kind of says a lot, seeing as Christians thought witches were eating babies and rubbing henbane all over their bits at the time. And speaking of pagan practices, in many traditions, holly was used in spellwork for protection, vitality, and to symbolize abundance in the darkness of winter. Sometimes as a symbol of the divine masculine, depending on tradition and personal preference. Holly was also used to attract love, with the idea being that if you put a leaf under your pillow, you'd see your future partner in a dream. It was also rumored to protect against bad intentions, poison, and even repel lightning from striking your home if you planted it near the front entrance. Which I honestly have kind of mixed feelings about, because I was taught that you shouldn't put prickly stuff near doors or walkways because people are clumsy. But then again, a scrape does sound way better than being struck by lightning, so maybe that's a risk you're willing to take. Personally, I like to take the practical magic approach where I can, and so far I'm thrilled to report that none of my clients have been struck by lightning or poisoned to my knowledge, so do with that information what you will. Funnily enough, though, there might be some truth on that lightning bit. The idea here is that holly can help to protect other plants from lightning because its pointy leaf shape is better at redirecting lightning, kind of like Zuko defending Katara in Avatar: The Last Airbender, but plantier. Today, holly is mostly used as a landscape plant to add a seasonal pop of color and food sources for birds. And while European holly is the most popular for decor, if you want holly in your landscape, I would encourage you to use your native holly. Most of us have at least a few options no matter where we live, and your native plants are going to not only be less work for you, but also provide key nutrients and shelter for your native ecosystem, supporting biodiversity without even really compromising on looks. Next time you see holly, on your table or in the timber, I hope you'll say hello and thank it for bringing us another reason for silly little trinkets. That's all I've got for this week, but I'll be back next week to cover another seasonal favorite, mistletoe. It should be a wild ride, so I'll see you then. Until next time, be kind to yourselves, be kind to the earth, and just like a plant, drink your water. If you liked the show, please subscribe and consider leaving us a review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere else you listen. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram at rooted.pod. We're finally updating regularly on YouTube at rooted.podcast, and you can check out our website, rootedpod.com, for transcripts, updates, merch, and so much more. The show is written, produced, and hosted by me. I'm Grebner Gaddis, edited by Kat Friend of Friend Diagram, and our theme music was written and produced by Eric Cluxon. Rooted is a Henbane Media LLC production.